If God made us, then he really needs to get his act together, because the human body is one of the shoddiest products ever shoved onto the market. I mean, come on, you've got companies out there making vacuum cleaners that can last 20 years without breaking down. But your knees, yeah, those things start squeaking after 30. 30! You can't even return them. They just creak, pop, and grind every time you try to bend over like a rusty hinge on a cheap screen door. That's supposed to be intelligent design? That's not intelligence. That's an amateur tinkering in the garage after too much whiskey. And don't even get me started on the spine, the so-called backbone of the body. What a scam. The thing that's supposed to hold you upright is also the thing most likely to ruin your life. People are walking around with slipped discs, pinched nerves, scoliosis, herniations. Half the planet is one sneeze away from a wheelchair. Who the hell designs a central column for your whole body out of Jenga pieces? One wrong twist, one heavy box, one enthusiastic attempt to tie your shoe, and boom, you're horizontal for 6 weeks, eating painkillers like Tic Tacs and wondering why the Supreme Creator couldn't have just given you titanium rods instead. Hell, even IKEA furniture is sturdier than a human spine. At least IKEA gives you an Allen wrench and some spare screws. And speaking of screws, what's the deal with teeth? Why, they made out of chalk. That's all they are, decorated pieces of chalk jammed into your gums, waiting to rot. You chew food, the thing you need to survive, and in the process you destroy the very tools designed for chewing. How smart is that? Imagine if your car's tires disintegrated every time you drove to the grocery store. That's not a design flaw. That's planned obsolescence. Cavities, root canals, crown. Dentists have built an entire real estate empire on the fact that the divine engineer couldn't be bothered to slap on some enamel strong enough to last 70 years. And while we're on it, why the hell do wisdom teeth even exist? You spend thousands of dollars yanching out perfectly good teeth just because your skull doesn't have enough square footage. Whose bright idea was it to keep an evolutionary souvenir nobody asked for? It's like moving into a brand new house and finding a random staircase that goes nowhere. And while we're poking around the inside, let's talk about digestion. Now here's a system that really shows you how much of a joke the master plan is. First of all, we eat food for energy, right? You think it'd be a clean and efficient process, but no, it's a 30-foot water slide of chaos. You chew, you swallow, it drops into an acid pit where your stomach does some medieval alchemy, and then you spend the rest of your day hoping nothing goes wrong. And it does go wrong, constantly. Heartburn, ulcers, constipation, diarrhea, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, the list goes on. Half the population can't even enjoy a slice of pizza without a pharmaceutical cocktail to keep the plumbing under control. That's intelligent design? That's not intelligence. That's sabotage. You shouldn't need a PhD in gastroenterology just to enjoy lunch. And don't get me started on the exit strategy. Because if there was any proof that this so-called creator had a sick sense of humor, it's the way we get rid of waste. Every living thing on the planet is basically a tube with 2 holes, and ours still manage to clog, leak, or explode at the worst possible moment. You ever been stuck in traffic when your colon suddenly decides to go DEFCON 1? Where's the divine foresight then? Oh sure, you've got a gallbladder you don't need, an appendix that wants to kill you, but no emergency trapdoor for situations like that. We're living in the 21st century, people, and we still rely on toilet paper. Think about that. We put a man on the moon, we carry supercomputers in our pockets, and the best solution we've come up with for nature's call is rubbing trees on our ass. Nice going, God. And don't even mention the appendix, that useless little time bomb just hanging out, waiting to burst. Every year, thousands of people are doubled over in agony because this vestigial organ decided it was tired of being ignored. You know what they call that in any other line of work? A recall. A class action lawsuit waiting to happen. But when it's your body, you just accept it. Oh, I guess I need emergency surgery. Emergency surgery? For what? For something that shouldn't even be there. That's not divine mystery, that's malpractice. Eyes are another disaster. Who in their right mind makes a sensory organ so fragile it gets ruined by reading too many books? Think about that. The very thing you use to acquire knowledge punishes you for using it. Nearsighted, farsighted, astigmatism, cataracts, glaucoma. Half of humanity is walking around with glass strapped to their face because the omnipotent creator couldn't be bothered to design a lens that lasts a lifetime. And don't even bring up the optic nerve. It's wired backwards. Literally backwards. Engineers have pointed this out for years. Any competent designer would have run the wiring behind the retina, not in front of it. But nope, we've got a big fat blind spot in the middle of our vision, like a cosmic practical joke. Then there's reproduction. Then there's reproduction. Now here's an area where you'd expect perfection, right? The continuation of the species. But no, it's a train wreck. Half the time the plumbing doesn't work. Infertility, miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies. And when it does work, you get 9 months of swollen ankles, back pain, morning sickness, and cravings for pickles dipped in ice cream. And let's not forget childbirth. If you wanted evidence that the Creator is sadistic, just look at childbirth. Women screaming, sweating, sometimes dying while trying to push a watermelon through a garden hose. That's not divine love. That's medieval torture with a bow on it. You couldn't design a hatch? A zipper? Something a little more humane than turning half the population into unpaid gladiators once they hit their 30s. And for men, it's not much better. The reproductive system is basically 2 fragile ornaments dangling outside the body like a piñata at a children's party. One flick, one misplaced soccer ball, and you're curled up on the ground rethinking your entire existence. Who puts the family jewels in a dangling sack? You wouldn't leave a Fabergé egg on the porch during a hailstorm, but apparently that's the best idea the Almighty could come up with. Not to mention the constant chance of cancer, infections, or things just not working when you need them to. If this was a car part, it would have been recalled decades ago. And while we're on the subject of fragile, how about skin? The biggest organ in the body and the one most likely to betray you. Sunburns, rashes, acne, eczema, blisters, wrinkles, sagging. You spend your youth covered in pimples and your old age covered in spots. That's the system. And let's not forget cancer, the big one. Your body's own cells turning against you. What kind of designer builds a system that manufactures its own enemy from the inside? That's not design, that's self-sabotage. It's like buying a house where the bricks occasionally decide to set fire to themselves. And while we're roasting the body, let's not forget the brain. Oh, the brain, supposedly the pinnacle of creation. This miraculous 3-pound lump of meat that controls everything. And what does it give us? Migraine, strokes, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. This superfect brain is basically one chemical imbalance away from turning you into a lunatic. Half the time it doesn't even remember where you put your keys. And when it does function, it spends most of its energy convincing you that you're smarter, sexier, and more important than you actually are. Oh yeah, that's a real gift. Thanks, God. So let's recap. You've got knees that wear out like cheap shoes, spines held together with duct tape, teeth made of chalk, digestion. That's one burrito away from total collapse, reproduction systems built for slapstick comedy. Skin that burns in the sun, eyes that go fuzzy, and a brain that works against you. And this is supposed to be the best of the best, made in the image of the divine. If this is what perfection looks like, then the universe owes us one giant refund. If God really made us, then he owes us a refund. Not just a partial refund, not store credit, not a coupon for 10% off your next suffering. No. I want a full refund cash, immediately. Because if this whole setup is supposed to be the best possible creation, then we all got ripped off. We didn't get the deluxe model, folks. We didn't even get the standard model. We got the floor sample from the cosmic discount bin, the one missing half its parts and smelling like mildew. Look around. The world doesn't even pass the basic quality control test. War, famine, disease, corruption, politicians, Kardashians, it's all in there. If this is the intelligent design, then the designer's intelligence should be measured in crayon. Imagine buying a brand new car, and instead of airbags, it comes with explosive. Instead of fuel efficiency, it leaks gasoline. Instead of a GPS, it comes with a map of 17th century Europe. That's Earth. The most advanced feature of this planet is indoor plumbing, and even that breaks down once a week. If this is the crown jewel of creation, I want to see the factory that pumped it out because they need to be shut down by OSHA. Take weather, for example. Weather's supposed to keep things balanced, right? Rain for the crops, sunshine for the plants, snow for the polar bears. Sounds good. But then you've got hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, tsunamis, droughts, floods. Entire cities wiped off the map because the planet sneezed. That's not weather, that's terrorism. We've got people inventing climate-controlled storage units for their comic books, but the Almighty couldn't design a planet without earthquakes? We're supposed to be impressed by mountains and sunsets, but every year thousands of people die because the ground had indigestion. That's not design, that's malpractice with clouds. And don't tell me it's all about a free will. Nobody's free from a hurricane. Nobody volunteered for a famine. No little kid in Africa said, "You know what would build character? Starving to death before I turn 6. These aren't moral tests, they're defects in the system. And if it's a test, then it's the kind of test where the teacher hands out loaded guns and says, "Oh, good luck, see who survives." That's not education, that's a horror movie. And then you got disease. Oh boy, what a feature that is. Cancer, AIDS, Alzheimer's, polio, leprosy, cholera, malaria. The list goes on like a CVS receipt. And what's the excuse? It's all part of God's mysterious plan. Oh yeah? So the plan included maggots eating a kid's eyeball in a refugee camp? That was a bullet point on the divine blueprint. Sorry, but that's not a plan. That's sadism. If you're building a world from scratch, why even include disease in the design folder? You don't need smallpox to make sunsets look prettier. You don't need malaria to keep people humble. You don't need tapeworms to keep your customer base on their toes. That's just sloppy work. And the people defending this mess will say, well, we live in a fallen world. A fallen world. Like it tripped on the stairs. Sorry, folks, paradise had a little accident, now everything's broken. No, pal, it wasn't perfect to begin with. Don't blame Adam and Eve. Don't blame some snake in a tree. Blame the guy who designed the whole thing with a built-in self-destruct feature. That's like selling a laptop with a note that says, by the way, if you press the spacebar, it'll burst into flames. And then when it bursts into flames, they say, well, you shouldn't have pressed the spacebar. No, you shouldn't have put the feature there in the first place. And while we're asking for refunds, let's talk about people. Oh, humanity, the piece de resistance, the image of God. If this is his image, he must have been having a really bad day at the mirror. People are greedy, violent, petty, jealous, insecure, horny, neurotic, and stupid. You give them a planet and they immediately start cutting it into little pieces, fighting over who owns which piece, and then blowing each other up because someone's God has a different hat. That's not intelligence, that's a cosmic blooper reel. And if people are the best he could do, then the refund should come with an apology card. Sorry, folks, we thought Humanity 1.0 would be better, but apparently the bugs were worse than expected. Please accept this coupon for eternal suffering as compensation. And don't you love how the world comes with no instructions? You're born and nobody hands you a manual, not even a pamphlet. You spend the first 20 years just trying to figure out how to pee without getting it on your shoes, and by the time you think you've got life figured out, you're 50, your back hurts, and your hair is gone. That's the system. That's the big design. No manual, no customer support, just trial and error until you collapse. If IKEA ran things this way, people would burn the company down. But with life, we say, oh well, mysterious ways again. And let's not forget politics. If this world was intelligently designed, why do we get leaders like Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, Nixon, Bush, Trump, Biden? Pick your poison. Every century, it's the same story. Some maniac grabs power, screws everything up, millions die, and then everyone acts surprised. That's not leadership, that's a recurring virus. If you're designing a species, maybe throw in a feature that keeps them from electing morons. Or at least a built-in lie detector that sets politicians on fire every time they open their mouths. That would have been useful. That would have been useful. Instead, we get liars, thieves, con men, and dictators, all baked into the system. If the world was a car, politics would be the part where the engine explodes if you turn on the radio. And money. Don't get me started on money, the great universal scam. Pieces of paper and numbers on a screen that decide whether you get to eat, live in a house, or rot on the street. And if you don't have enough, you're screwed. Meanwhile, the richest people hoard billions they'll never use while kids die of hunger. And somehow we're supposed to believe that this system was allowed, if not endorsed, by the great designer. Really? The guy who could create galaxies couldn't think of a better economy than a some have everything. Most have nothing. That's not divine wisdom. That's a casino with worse odds. And look at the animals. They didn't escape the defects either. Lions rip apart zebras while they're still alive. Parasites burrow into brains, sharks take off legs. Mosquitoes spread disease. Nature documentaries are basically horror films narrated by a calm British guy. And now the baby gazelle will be eaten alive by a pack of hyenas. Isn't nature beautiful? Beautiful? No, it's a slaughterhouse with good lighting. If this is the circle of life, then I want my money back. And then there's the big philosophical kicker. Suffering is random, totally random. Good people get crushed, bad people get rich. Babies die, dictators live to 90. There's no pattern, no justice, no reason. It's like playing roulette with your soul. And when you point that out, people say, well, God's plan is bigger than we can understand. Oh, sure, just like Enron's accounting. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it's not a scam. That's the ultimate cop-out. It's too big for you to get. No, it's not too big. It's too broken, and if you try to return the product, there's no receipt. You're stuck. So let's tally this up. We've got defective bodies, broken customer service, shady terms and conditions in a world that looks like it was slapped together by a drunk intern. And we're still supposed to say a thank you, no way. If any other company pulled this stunt, they'd be in court so fast their halo would fall off. Imagine suing God. Your Honor, the defendant sold us a defective universe full of pain and suffering with no warranty, no customer service, and no refunds. And the judge says, sounds like a class action to me. So if God made us and if this world is the best he can do, then the verdict is in. He owes us big time in dirt. Not just for the aches and pains, not just for the wars and diseases, but for the whole cosmic ripoff. And until that refund shows up, I'm keeping the receipt. My middle finger pointed straight at the sky. If God really made us, then where the hell is the customer service department? Because if you buy a toaster and it burns your bread, you call a number. Some guy in India picks up, and eventually you either get a replacement or a refund. That's how it works with appliances. But with life, no. You break a hip, blow out a kidney, or your heart stops ticking like it's supposed to. And suddenly the customer support line is just prayer. You get down on your knees, fold your hands, and hope that the great cosmic call center in the sky is open 24 hours a day. Spoiler alert, they never pick up. But you say? You can leave as many voicemails as you want, but the mailbox is full, folks. Prayer has about the same success rate as yelling at your Wi-Fi router when the internet goes out. Think about it. You're a consumer. You didn't ask to be born. Nobody sends in an application saying, yes, I'd like 75 years of joint pain and paperwork, please. No, you were shoved into existence, slapped on the ass, and told to get to work. That's a forced purchase. And when the product starts breaking down, where's the warranty? A car comes with a 5-year warranty. A refrigerator gives you 10. Your body, 0. Nothing. You leave the hospital with a birth certificate and a bill, and that's it. No pamphlet, no manual, not even a toll-free number. What kind of operation is this? If Apple ran things this way, there'd be lawsuits stacked higher than the Tower of Babel. No, the faithful folks will tell you that prayer is the customer service line. That's what they'll say. You just ask, and it'll be given to you. Knock, and the door shall be opened. Yeah, try knocking on that door when your appendix explodes. You'll find out real quick the door's locked, bolted, and reinforced with steel. And the guy inside is either ignoring you or he's not home. Yeah. And even if he is home, he's the kind of customer service rep that transfers you 9 times and then hangs up. Sorry, can't help you. You'll have to try again later. Later, you're on the bathroom floor clutching your stomach, and he wants you to try again later. What kind of business model is it? You don't see best by telling people, well, if you believe hard enough, your flat-screen TV will fix itself. You don't walk into Target with a busted blender and have the manager say, have you tried meditating on it? And maybe the spirit of the blender will rise again. No, they give you a new blender. That's how civilized people do business. But no, the Supreme Creator apparently skipped Business 101. Instead of warranties, we get suffering. Instead of refunds, we get sermon. Instead of technical support, we get silence. And the whole of God works in mysterious ways excuse. That's just customer service jargon for we don't give a shit. You've heard it 1,000 times. Your cousin dies in a freak accident, your dog gets cancer, your house burns down, and people say, oh, well, God works in mysterious ways. That's the divine equivalent of a company saying, we value your feedback. It means nothing. It's a polite way of telling you to shut up and stop complaining. They'll even say, he has a plan. Yeah, well, it looks like the plan involves a whole lot of bankruptcy, bad knees, and cancer wards. That's not a plan, that's negligence with a halo. And if prayer really is the hotline, then what's with the wait times? You ever notice how long it takes for these so-called miracles to show up? Some people spend decades begging for relief and nothing happens. Meanwhile, the guy in front of them prays for a parking space and gets one instantly. What's that about? If the system worked fairly, people wouldn't be rotting in hospital beds while someone else finds a front row seat at the mall. That's not divine justice. That's a broken queue system. God's like the cable company. He shows up whenever he damn well feels like it. And usually it's after you're dead. Oh, sorry we missed you. We came by, but you weren't home. Yeah. I wasn't home because you let me die of tuberculosis, you clown. And let's talk about the refunds. Where are they? When life completely screws you over, when you get hit with war, famine, tornadoes, or a divorce settlement, where's the reimbursement? Where's the cosmic store credit? No, sorry, your kid was born with a rare disease. Here's a coupon for half off your next lifetime. That would at least be something. Airlines give you a voucher if they lose your luggage. Amazon gives you free returns, the almighty. Nothing. You lose everything, and the only answer is, well, you'll get your reward in heaven. That's the after-sale scam. That's the extended warranty you can never cash in until you're dead. You can't read the fine print, you can't verify the details, you just have to trust the salesman. Well, by now, suffer endlessly, and later maybe you'll get a cloud and a harp. It's the oldest bait and switch in history. Don't even bring up those televangelists who claim they're the middlemen for this cosmic customer service. Send us money and we'll put in a good word for you with the boss. Oh, sure, because when my liver's failing, what really helps is wiring $50 to some guy in a shiny suit with too much hairspray. They're the divine version of those sketchy third-party tech support scams. You know the ones. Some guy with a headset calls you saying your computer has a virus. Pay me $200 and I'll fix it. Except in this case, it's your soul has a virus. Pay me $200 and I'll pray for you. Same con, different costume. And when people try to justify it, they always say the same thing. Well, suffering builds character. Really? Then this planet is an assembly line for character because everyone's suffering all the time. Meanwhile, the only character most people end up with is bitterness, arthritis, and a drinking problem. If suffering builds character, then why do we still need prisons, laws, and therapy? With all the suffering going on, shouldn't the human race be saints by now? But no, apparently the customer service department thinks the best way to improve your life is to set it on fire. Thanks a lot, that's some real 5-star service right there. And here's the kicker. They'll tell you God never gives you more than you can handle. What kind of line is that? That's the customer service rep telling you, oh, the box you got was supposed to come broken, you're just strong enough to deal with it. Imagine ordering a sofa online. It arrives with 2 legs missing, and when you complain, the company says, we knew you'd be resourceful enough to prop it up with cinder blocks. That's not good service, that's gaslighting, and people buy it. They nod along and say, yes, this burden was meant for me. No, it wasn't meant for you, it was meant for nobody, and you got screwed. The real scam of the whole customer service angle is that you're not even allowed to complain. That's the best part. If you call Verizon and scream at them long enough, eventually they give you a discount just to shut you up. But with God, you complain too much, and suddenly you're labeled a heretic, a blasphemer, or just plain ungrateful. Ungrateful. You're walking around with kidney stones, migraines, and hemorrhoids, and you're supposed to be grateful? That's like buying a car with no brakes, no air conditioning, and a horn that only plays a la cucaracha, and then the dealer tells you you should be thankful you got 4 wheels. No, pal, I should be pissed. And the excuse that it's all about a faith, that's just another way of saying the customer service department doesn't actually exist. Faith is like those automated phone trees. Press 1 if you're in pain, press 2 if you're dying, press 3 if you want a miracle. And no matter what you press, the line ends with a please hold. Your call is very important to us. Meanwhile, you're rotting on the other end, waiting for a voice that never comes. And if you really push the faithful on it, they'll pull out the final excuse. Well, it's not God's fault, it's yours. You didn't believe enough. You didn't pray the right way. You didn't go to the right church. You didn't send enough money to Reverend Harrigo. That's the beauty of the scam. It's always your fault. The toaster burns the bread. You didn't plug it in right. The car breaks down. You didn't drive it holy enough. Life falls apart. Well, clearly you weren't faithful enough. That way the customer service department never has to take responsibility. No refunds, no replacements, no accountability. Just you stuck with the bill.